All right, hello, Mr. Recruitment Chairman. In this presentation, I'm just going to go over your responsibilities and your opportunities of your position. So in that, at the end of this lecture, I hope that you'll understand the general officer responsibilities. So the responsibilities that every officer holds, and then understand your own specific responsibilities, and then identify opportunities that you can act on, so the things you can do outside of your responsibilities. And finally, after this presentation, you'll synthesize your responsibilities and opportunities into one little description. So let's just get right into it. So the general officer responsibilities are listed here. The first one, hold office hours for 2 hours each week, is flexible and determined by the venerable dean, but it is something that you need to do, and you need to set aside time to be able to get your stuff done, whether it's just planning events, recording stuff that happen, or preparing your weekly chapter report. One thing you want to do as a new officer is to review the policies and gold book that pertain to your position. That way you have a good, strong knowledge base. I'll cover a lot of information in this presentation, but I can't cover everything. And so the gold book is definitely a very good thing for you to read, and it's available in the Google Drive, the chapter Google Drive. You'll want to set up monthly one-on-ones with the venerable dean, and this is because, maybe you'll see him at chapter meetings or just, around, and you guys will talk about things. But a monthly one-on-one where you sit down and it's about Acacia and you focus and you talk about what's happened, what's going on, strategies for the future, and then plan for the future, you'll have a much better time as a recruitment chairman. You want to create your position budget and present it to the treasurer 2 weeks before the first meeting in January. So that's basically just, what am I going to do, what are my goals, how am I going to reach those goals, and how much is that going to cost? And you send it to him, and he'll let you know how much you can have. You'll need to complete training, what you're doing now, and then attend the transition session in January. Be at the chapter house 1 week before school begins in the fall and 3 days in the spring. And finally, a really good important one is to prepare and send weekly reports to the secretary before the officer meeting. This is very crucial to the smooth operation of not only the officer meeting, but the chapter meeting. So you come into the officer meeting knowing what you're going to talk about, what you need to do, those kinds of different things, and then the secretary can make the agenda right there, really easy. And then it's you guys, instead of spending a lot of time on creating the agenda, you guys are just, you already have it ready to go, you fine tune it, and you can discuss more important matters. All right, now let's get into you, the thing that you've been wanting to hear. So your responsibility is going to be divided into 4 sections. So there's event planning and management, there's P&M, potential new member management, scholarship recruitment, and education. And then following that, I will talk about how your position works within the PER system, the planning, recording, and reporting. So event planning and management, first is, there are 2 different little sections. There's the planning part, and then there's actually, managing or implementing the event. So you want to plan events before the semester begins and include them in the master calendar. That's something that the secretary handles, is the master calendar. And then plan a mixture of big, so all the brothers involved, and little events, so a few brothers. So what that means is plan big events where everyone's involved, they come over for like a brother dinner, but then also plan little events saying like, hey, let's have some guys come over and do just play some video games, or let's get outside the house and have just some guys who want to go to the club, play video games there, or go to an up all night. It doesn't have to be everyone, just some. Utilize the event brainstorming list to come up with ideas, and that's something that's on the Google Drive under the resources. And then so management, so you've got your events planned out, you got a variety of events, small ones, big ones, ones on campus, one at the house. Now you need to manage them. So you need to gather the needed materials, secure the event area, and motivate the brothers to attend. So guys, this is going to be awesome and such, and really try to understand the members. That way, the more you understand the members and the the events that more are tailored to them, the less you'll have to motivate them to actually get them there. Unlike the junior dean, he doesn't have to be the life of the party. He actually just has to set them up, get them up, and they go. But as you, though, you need to be the life of the party as a recruitment chairman. When you are there, you need to be the guy like enabling guys to socialize and being the one socializing with everyone and connecting people. You're that networker guy to make sure that connections are happening, and then ensure that that if there's any necessary cleanup afterwards, that there are guys that will clean up. So event management is not too tough. Just keep those things in mind. And now P&M management. So how are you going to track and organize the P&Ms that we get? And this is the most important part of your job. Like hopefully recruitment is not solely on your shoulders. You're not going to be the guy to go out and recruit every single P&M we get or every single pledge. You're just making sure that the chapter's operating well, it has events planned, it has guys who know how to recruit, and you're going to make sure that guys are following up with their recruits. And that's where this is. So you're going to maintain the P&M war board. It can be called a war board or a names list, whatever it wants to be called. It's basically just a list of guys' names with their numbers and their status of like, where are they at? Are they ready to be bid? Are they not ready? Do they need to be invited to events? Do they need to be followed up with? Anything like that. And the most important part, names list is worth nothing unless you regularly contact P&Ms who you've met personally. And for the ones that you haven't met, you're going to want to make sure the brother who knows them to contact them regularly, be on them, be really, really on them. Don't just send them a text reminding them, like call them, tell them, or even just have them, if you see them at the house, sit down and be like, hey, let's do this right now. Let's contact this guy. So one thing to note is the progress the P&M through the war board, because kind of when you're recruiting guys, it's kind of like getting a girlfriend and then trying to marry her. You can't just go straight for, hey, do you want to marry me? You got to kind of get them through a process. And so the first thing is getting guys out to get the name. And then you need to get them over and you need to get them to hang out. So it just doesn't have to be with the chapter. You just need those two guys to go and hang out. And then get them to a whole chapter event so they can get a feel of the whole chapter. And then once they start, you feel that they're ready for a bid, and that's going to be something very subjective, you set up a way to give them a bid. And that's to be anything special. I mean, obviously you need the card and everything, and maybe the brother who knows him well, maybe someone else, and just sit down with them. Go out to lunch with them, do it at the chapter house, do it whenever. Just don't do it while they're drunk, obviously, and ask them if they want to join. And there is kind of like a process to working through that if they are kind of on the fence, and that's something we can work on at some outside of this presentation. And then finally, of course, pledge them. So another big important part, like I said, since you aren't the one solely recruiting, you're going to make sure that other guys are good at recruiting. So that's educating them. So before each term and during slow recruitment, like later in the semester, you'll educate the members on recruitment. So first, you'll utilize what you learned from the Gold Book, the WCU Acacia Recruitment Gold Book, and then the Fired Up book, Good Guys, which we both have on hand. You'll want to plan recruitment workshops for the beginning and the middle semester. So plan them ahead. Tell them, hey, guys, we're going to spend 1 to 3 hours, however, whatever you think is right, to just talk about recruitment techniques. You can also present tips at each chapter meeting, just weekly little tips like, hey guys, don't forget, use this to help you meet new people. And finally, add other recruitment resources as well as your own personal experience to the education. So reach out and constantly always updating this and progressing and finding those new ideas. So that's some of the major, just kind of really good look at what your job is. But the planning, recording, reporting is really the management side. Like I said, there's a leadership side and management side, and this will be the side that you'll need to focus on as far as like doing. So planning, I've already talked about how you need to be an event planner, and I'm going to just speak on some keys to effective planning. So always try to plan 2 weeks in advance. Like I said, at the beginning of the semester, you really should just lay out everything. And I'm just saying putting titles to dates. But then when 2 weeks comes up, that's when you actually get into the nitty-gritty details of actually planning the event, and seeing how it's all going to work. And if with bigger events, you're going to want to utilize a committee. You're going to always want to delegate. Don't take on everything yourself. It won't work. You're going to want to set firm deadlines for tasks. So if you're breaking up a larger event or project, you're going to want to break it up into smaller chunks to work on and make deadlines for those chunks. You're going to want to plan regular events and varied events. So events that guys can rely on, like, all right, every Friday we're going to do poker, guys. And then outside of that, all right, this weekend we're going to go camping. Next weekend we're going to do video games, and just try to hit on all the different interests. And then communicate your plans with the other officers, including all pertinent details about the event, so that way everyone's on board of what's happening. Pro tip, plan as much as possible at the beginning of the turn. Planning and procrastinating don't bode well together. So get it all done now so that way you can sit back and then do the doing later. So moving on to recording. You do have some responsibilities for recording. That way, because Acacia is a learning organization and we learn from recording down what those lessons were. So first part is the P&M Warboard must be updated regularly. So just always updating it, and don't ever get rid of names or anything like that. We want to be able to see, we want to go back at the end of the semester and review, like, okay, how big was our names list? Who did we get? Who didn't we get? Why? Why not? Those kind of things. And so that'll be something you can sit down and there's already a reward board made and it'll be passed on to you and we can work that out individually. You want to transfer information for the reward board to the program database. So once the semester gets done, you're going to want to take that information, like I said, the total number of people on the names list, who was bidded, who accepted their bids, who ended up being pledged and initiated, and put that into the program database on the Google Drive. And then also you want to record who makes referrals in the member database. That way we can give rewards to those members that are making a lot of referrals, going out and getting these guys on the names list. And so remember, without recording recruitment information, Acacia cannot build off of successes. So this is a very important part of your job. Finally, last part of the PER system is reporting. So keep the chapter in the know by completing these items. You're going to want to report the progress of the P&Ms at each chapter. So which P&Ms are most desirable, what are their interests, which part, who should we bid, who accepted the bid, things like that. You'll want to report on upcoming events and their details, where, when, cost, dress, and like I said, this is where you're going to want to be a salesman and just really sell that event. And if you think it interests them, really sell it to them. And always try to get guys input on things and hey, not during while you're reporting, but outside of chapter, ask guys when would be a good time for you to do this? I know you really like this, and try to build some some investment into it. And then finally, you can educate members by giving a recruitment tip from one of the recruitment sources like I mentioned earlier. So that's pretty much a good summary of what your responsibilities as a recruitment chairman are. Throughout this presentation, I did mention there are some things that you'll need to do outside of this, getting used to the reward board, how to use Google Drive and to record things, and you want to understand what are good ways to set up a workshop, to educate members. That's all stuff that you can work personally with me to understand. A little too extensive to fit in here though. So outside of that, the recruitment chairman has an awesome position to do some things outside of what's obviously required of him of just recruiting. Keep in mind that the only real limitation is yourself, how much you can push yourself, how creative you are willing to be, and ultimately the limits you set for yourself. So always keep that in mind. Here are some tips on just some possible opportunities you can take advantage of, including plan an awesome event like laser tag, paintball, or camping trip, work with a neighbor fraternity to hold a street party or large joint event, or even plan a summer event. For instance, on 4th of July, have the guys all meet up in one spot somewhere, and then we can have a fun time doing 4th of July, and they can invite some of their friends they may know from the high school that are going to be going to WSU. All right, for the presentation, that's it. Now I just need you to go to the activity section of this module, and you just write up a quick summary of what you think your responsibilities and opportunities are without using this presentation or the gold book. That way you just kind of test yourself to see, if you really kind of get a good grasp of what your responsibilities and opportunities are. Thank you, and I hope you have a good semester.